There are bands that make music, and then there are bands that make history. Rage Against the Machine were the second kind. In 9 years, they released 3 albums, sold 16 million records, got banned from Saturday Night Live, had their entire catalogue blacklisted from American radio, and briefly forced the New York Stock Exchange to shut its doors. They were the most commercially successful radical political act in the history of popular music, and they meant every single word they ever screamed. This is their story. Every revolution begins not with a roar, but with a wound. Zack de la Rocha was born in 1970 in Long Beach, California. His father was a celebrated Mexican-American muralist, a political artist whose work bled fury onto public walls. His great-grandfather had been a fighter in the Mexican Revolution. Revolution wasn't history in the de la Rocha household, it was inheritance. But Zack grew up between worlds, mixed race, in white suburban California. He sat in classrooms where teachers said things that made him feel, in his own words, "I was not of these people." I remember how afraid I was to say anything.
And I see this machine is like an engine that has been fueled and run off the blood of oppressed people like all over the world.
That silence became a scream. He found hardcore punk, he found a microphone, and the rage finally had a vehicle. Tom Morello grew up in Libertyville, Illinois, the only non-white child in his entire school. His mother was a fierce political activist. His uncle was Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya. Tom went to Harvard, studied political science, then moved to Los Angeles to become a rock star. His band got signed, got dropped. At 26 years old, he was back to zero. In 1991, a mutual friend brought them together. Zack de la Rocha and Tom Morello discovered they shared identical politics, overlapping obsessions, heavy metal, hip-hop, punk, and a shared belief that music could be a weapon. Tom brought in drummer Brad Wilk, who had just narrowly missed becoming Pearl Jam's drummer. Zack brought his childhood best friend, bassist Tim Comerford. 4 people assembled by something stronger than coincidence. They called themselves Rage Against the Machine. In a rehearsal room in the San Fernando Valley, something extraordinary was happening. Imagine if Public Enemy and Led Zeppelin had a furious, radicalized child. That still doesn't fully capture it. Zack de la Rocha didn't merely sing. He rapped, he chanted, he whispered, and then he erupted. With the fury of someone who had spent their entire life being told to be quiet. And then there was Tom Morello's guitar. Morello had made a decision early on. Stop trying to sound like everyone else. Using a custom kill switch built into his guitar, a whammy pedal, and a toggle switch, he learned to make his guitar sound like a DJ scratching vinyl, like a machine misfiring, like a siren, a helicopter, a city on fire. The band made one solemn promise. Everything you hear on our records is made by guitar, bass, drums, and vocals. No keyboards, no samples, no computers. Every impossible sound, all guitar. They recorded a 12-song demo cassette. The cover, newspaper stock market pages, with a single matchstick taped to the inlay card. The symbolism was not subtle. Every major label in America came running. They signed with Epic Records, but only on one condition: complete creative control, no interference, ever. Epic agreed. Their debut album arrived on November 3rd, 1992. The cover was a Pulitzer Prize-winning photograph of a Buddhist monk burning himself to death in Saigon, 1963, in protest against an oppressive government. The message was clear before a single note played. Sales were slow at first, 75,000 copies, and then came Lollapalooza 1993. Rage Against the Machine took that stage and destroyed every other act on the bill through sheer unstoppable force. By the end of that year, the album had sold 3 million copies, but it wasn't just the music, it was what the music was about. Every song was a history lesson your school never taught you. Killing in the Name, 1992, inspired by the 1991 videotaped beating of Rodney King by LAPD officers.
Some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses.
Exposing the documented history of collaboration between law enforcement and white supremacist groups. It builds to Zack screaming,
"Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me!"
16 times. For millions of teenagers, it was the first protest song they ever heard that matched the anger they already felt. 1992, written as America celebrated its Gulf War victory on CNN. Zack saw the media coverage as propaganda, turning citizens into passive consumers of war. The bullet isn't from a gun, it's the bullet of manufactured consent, when you believe you're free, but you're following orders.
Aggression is defeated, the war is over.
The politically charged themes continue in Know Your Enemy, with Morello's guitar solo mimicking an air raid siren.
Come on! Yes, I know my enemies. They're the teachers who taught me to...
1996. The guitar intro, Morello using his kill switch to mimic vinyl scratching, remains one of the most recognizable moments in 90s rock. A ferocious indictment of American military policy.
Running around the family with a pocket full of shells.
No samples, no DJ, just a guitar doing something a guitar had never done before. 1999. Guerrilla Radio won the Grammy for Best Hard Rock Performance, an attack on media consolidation and the two-party political system, and the song that introduced an entire generation to rage through a video game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, one of music history's most unexpected cultural doorways. Rage Against the Machine didn't just write about confronting power, they actually did it, repeatedly, and damn the consequences. Director Michael Moore filmed Rage Against the Machine, performing Sleep Now in the Fire outside the New York Stock Exchange. The chaos escalated, the crowd grew, the NYSE ordered its titanium security doors to be closed. The beating heart of American capitalism had sealed itself against a rock band, and after September 11th, 2001, Clear Channel, which owned over 1,000 American radio stations, circulated a list of songs with questionable lyrics that must not be broadcast. Rage Against the Machine were the only band in history to have their entire catalogue on the list. Every song, banned, all of it. Too dangerous. The most combustible band in rock history was, it turned out, just as combustible inside as it was on stage. By 2000, the tensions were unbearable. On October 18th, 2000, Zack de la Rocha posted a public statement. "I feel it is now necessary to leave Rage because our decision-making process has completely failed. It was over." The other three members formed Audioslave with the legendary Chris Cornell of Soundgarden. 3 acclaimed albums. Zack retreated from public life almost entirely. He traveled to Mexico and spent time with the Zapatista rebels, the indigenous fighters whose struggle he had always championed. He recorded a solo album he never released, collaborated with Trent Reznor and DJ Shadow, and largely, he disappeared. For 7 years, there was silence. The world kept changing around the absence of Rage Against the Machine, the Iraq War, Katrina, nuclear tests in North Korea. Every year people wondered, isn't this exactly when Rage should come back? 7 years of silence, and then a single goiter riff rang out over the California desert. 60,000 people at Coachella lost their minds. Rage Against the Machine were back. They toured the world through 2007, 2008, and 2011. A second reunion was announced for 2020, postponed by a pandemic that seemed almost designed to prove every point they had ever made about systemic failure and government incompetence. When they finally took the stage again in 2022, Zack tore his Achilles tendon mid-show. The tour ended, and in 2024, it was confirmed quietly. Rage Against the Machine had disbanded for the third and final time. In 2009, a couple in Britain launched a social media campaign with one goal: stop Simon Cowell's X Factor winner from automatically claiming the UK Christmas #1, their weapon of choice, Killing in the Name.
And now you do what they told ya.
A 17-year-old protest song about American police racism. 500,000 people downloaded it. The BBC invited Rage to perform it live.
Oh, the battle for Christmas #1 is raging. The might of the X Factor winner Joe McElderry is up against the online campaign by fans to get the US rap metal group Rage Against the Machine to the top spot. I downloaded.
Well, I think it'd be kind of a wonderful statement. The kids all over the UK have responded to this incredible internet campaign, and I think that it says something about the real tensions that people are experiencing all over the UK and the United States as well.
And politely asked them not to swear. Zach opened with the profanity. He raised his middle finger. The song went to #1.
Do what you tell me. Fuck you, I'm gonna do what you tell me. Fuck you, I'm gonna do what you
Get rid of it. Sorry, we needed to get rid of that because that suddenly turned into something we were not... we were expecting it and asked them not to do it, and they did it anyway.
The band donated every penny to charity. That is Rage Against the Machine in a single story. Everything they ever warned about has come true. The media consolidation, the wealth gap, the militarized police, the endless wars, the politicians who served corporations before people. Every album they made is as urgent today as the day it was recorded, because the machine they raged against never stopped. They sold 16 million records. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023. They influenced every heavy band that came after them, from Linkin Park to Kendrick Lamar to Run the Jewels. Tom Morello reinvented what a guitar could do. Zach De La Rocha wrote lyrics that doubled as history lessons and battle cries simultaneously. But their greatest achievement was simpler and more profound than any of that. They proved that music can be dangerous, that it can make governments flinch, and stock exchanges lock their doors, and radio stations panic. They proved that rage, when it is specific and intelligent and righteous, is not just an emotion, it is a gift.